All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a super interesting economic mystery that Goldman Sachs stumbled upon. It's a story that starts with a really weird gap in China's energy data, but trust me, it ends up being all about the global race for AI dominance. So, let me ask you this. What if you got your credit card bill and it was consistently, month after month, way higher than your official salary? You'd probably think something is seriously off, right? Well, get this. That's pretty much exactly what's happening with China's national economic data. And it's pointing to something huge going on right under the surface. Okay, so let's get into the numbers. Over the last decade, things just haven't been adding up. The total amount of electricity China used, its consumption, shot up by a whopping 79%. But the amount of power its big official power plants produced only grew by 56%. That leaves this massive 23% gap. And analysts have started calling this missing electricity ghost power. So that's the big question, right? Where on earth is all this extra electricity coming from? I mean, it can't just appear out of nowhere. It's got to be generated somewhere. Well, the answer, it turns out, is all in how you measure things. The official generation number only counts the big boys, the massive centralized power plants. But the consumption number, that's totally different. It measures everything. It's a total amount of power used by every home, every business, every single factory, right down to the outlet in your wall. So you see, this ghost power isn't some mistake in the math. Not at all. It's real electricity being churned out by millions of smaller, decentralized sources that are just too small to show up on the official radar. And this picture? This perfectly shows you where that power is coming from. We are talking about millions and millions of solar panels on rooftops, on factories, plus all the small wind turbines out in the countryside. See, each one by itself is too small to be counted officially, but when you add them all together, you've got a new, invisible powerhouse. And this gets to a really interesting point that Goldman Sachs made. In our crazy, complex world, financial data can be tweaked, it can be revised, but physical consumption, things like the actual energy you need to run a machine, well, that doesn't lie. It's become maybe the most honest way to check the pulse of a country's real economy. But here's the kicker. This whole thing, this statistical quirk, it is not an accident. It's actually the result of a very deliberate long-term national plan, one that Goldman Sachs has called the Barbell Strategy. Think of it like a barbell, right? Two heavy weights on either end for perfect balance. On one end of the barbell, you have this massive all-in push into renewable energy, solar, wind, the whole shebang. On the other end, you've got this super reliable backstop, cheap domestic coal. That's the fail-safe, the thing that makes sure the lights never, ever go out. Now, what's really wild is seeing just how well this strategy has worked. Just look at that tiny little sliver for imported oil and gas. It's only 3% of their electricity generation. They've basically made their power grid immune to all the chaos of global energy markets. So why build this incredibly stable, massive power grid? Well, it's not just for fun. It's being built to feed two new, extremely power-hungry giants that are showing up on the scene. Let's just call them the power tigers. So who are these tigers? First up, AI data centers, which, as you know, need an unbelievable amount of electricity. And the second, the massive, and I mean massive charging networks needed for the country's huge fleet of electric vehicles. And their appetite for electricity is just insane. By 2025, just those two industries were already eating up 5% of all the electricity in the entire country. And that number is just climbing, and climbing fast. Now, to keep these tigers fed, the government had to do a complete 180 on its energy policy. For years, the motto was use less power, conserve energy. Now, it's totally different. The new rule is use all the power you want, as long as it's clean power. It's basically a giant hidden subsidy of cheap, clean energy for their most important high-tech industries. Okay, so this all brings us to the real endgame here. This entire energy strategy, from the ghost power to the barbell, it's all laying the groundwork for one thing, dominating the next big tech revolution. Because here's the thing, you gotta understand. The race to build the best AI, it's not really about who has the smartest programmers or the fanciest chips. At its core, it's an energy competition. The ultimate limit on how much you can compute is how much electricity you can get your hands on. So while other countries are starting to panic about their power grids breaking under the strain of AI, Goldman's report says China's going the other way. By 2030, they're on track to have 400 gigawatts of spare power. To put that in perspective, that's 3 times what every data center in the world is expected to need. I mean, the contrast laid out here is just, wow. On one side, you have the US grid, which is getting old, it's straining, and it's getting close to that danger zone for reserve power. On the other side, you have China, which is not only building a massive surplus, but is coordinating it all at a national level, making sure that for every new computer chip, there's a new green watt of power ready to go. So when you stop looking at the AI race as just a tech thing and start looking at it through this energy lens, well, the whole strategic picture just snaps into focus. You can see how grid reliability and energy costs suddenly become absolutely crucial. So, what this all really boils down to is a new reality. The old rules for measuring a country's strength are changing. The new equation for the 21st century is simple. Computing power equals electric power. You just can't have one without the other. Which brings us all the way back to the beginning. That weird ghost power we started with, turns out it wasn't a mistake in the books at all. It might have been the sound of a superpower quietly building its trump card, one that's hidden not in a high-tech lab, but in the power lines themselves.